Hello everybody. This is the first time I'm going direct to YouTube, so I'm not even sure if this is happening or not, but we'll see. I don't know if there's a way that I will see comments. Let me just see. Anyway, I will try to look after the comments after I'm finished. Sorry for the big close-up of my face. This is the only way that I can manage to use a monitor and my phones as, well, so that I can see what I'm doing, I guess. So I'm using two cameras and a phone, and trying to do that by myself is not easy. So first of all, I need a sip of coffee. And I will introduce myself. I'm Lucy Richard. I am the Crazy Mason Jar Lady. This is my product, the Woolly Mason Jar Color Wheel Dyeing. And many of you are watching because you already have the system, and many of you may not know about it and want to have a brief, I'm just going to touch on it briefly because that's not what I'm here for. But if you're at home and you think that you can't dye, well, you are wrong, because I have made it so easy to dye whatever color you want, whatever value you want, whatever size you want, with just one simple conversion. And that's all. No fractions. And, you know, I was sick and tired of trying to learn how to dye, and I'd find a nice book and I'd get a beautiful piece of wool that I wanted to dye, and then it would be half a yard or quarter yard. I am frugal. I might only need a 3x18 piece, or I might only need a 7x18 piece. You know, I just need to dye as I go, so this is what I've done. So I'm going to change cameras and show you, and then we're going to go over how to dye. All right, so I seem to have a shadow somewhere. Let me see if I can. All right, don't worry about things falling on my head. I'm used to that. All right, so let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Okay, so this is the Woolly Mason Jar dye system. There is no book. This is it. And I do tons of videos that you can find on how to do different things. I have a private video group that they pay every month, and they're called the Diehards. And, you know, depending on what you do, and I'm always around for you to ask questions too. So what it is, I'll show you right here. You start with 3 primary jars, red, yellow, and blue. And I always add a little bit of brown, and each jar is made the exact same way. It is 1 gram of solution plus 1/10 of a gram of chestnut brown in all 3 jars, and that is per cup. So if you're doing 4 cups, you would do 4 grams, etc. Then from there, you mix equal parts of the 2 primers to get your secondaries, and then after you get your 6 jars, then you mix half and half of the other ones in the color wheel. Let me just show you here. Let's see, I don't think I have. I'll go back to the color wheel. And I use a color wheel clock. So if you're wondering what the numbers are, red is always number 1, yellow is number 5, and blue in the circles, these are your primaries. And then as you've seen, we mix red and yellow and got orange. And then we mix yellow and blue and got green. And blue and red gets purple. And then to make these, it's really easy. You mix equal parts of red and red-orange, or red and orange to get red-orange. So you know exactly what to use to make that jar because it's written right on it. Oops, on the tertiaries, sorry. I better zoom out a little bit. I need a camera person. All right. And so again, for yellow-orange, equal parts of yellow and orange give you yellow-orange. If you forget, this teaches you how to mix your colors with 3 primaries, and so you always get consistent colors each time. On the backs of on every card, this is for 1 single strip, 3.5 by 18. This is the amount of the solution liquid that you're going to put in. And so let's say if I want a number 5 value here, I would heat up my jar of W2 red and put a teaspoon and a half in it. And then I would get it. If I want a bigger piece, then there are conversion sleeves on the back. I don't think I have any on this set. Oh, there they are. I'll just take one off just to show you how you can make larger sizes. I don't want to mess them all up. So let's say I want to make this, this is my favorite color. Well, one of them, I guess these all are, W2 red orange. So to make that, I look behind here and it tells me mix 1 part primary and 1 part secondary solution. And so in here, to make a full cup, you add a half a cup of each. Red and orange, it makes red orange. And it's like that every time. There's a conversion down here for how many strips, what the weights of the strip, etc. Because this is all weight driven. You weigh your dye. That's why it's so accurate. You weigh your dye, and it goes by the weight of wool. And I don't weigh every piece of wool, because I know that 1 yard of Door Natural will give me 32 pieces 3 by 18, or it'll give me 16 6 by 18, or it'll give me 4. Well, anyway, I'm not going to be dividing in 32. But also, each one of those little pieces is 10 grams, or close enough. So I'm not weighing every piece, but I do know that every time I want to dye a 3 by 18 strip, I'm going to consider it 10 grams, and I'm going to use this. If I want a bigger piece, so with this system, you don't have to do all 8 values. You're not pouring off and pouring off and pouring off. So if I want a double swatch, which is a 1/16 of a yard or 20 grams, I slide this on. Look at that. There is my formula right there. No fractions, guys. I've done it all for you. And the same with 1/8 of a yard, which is 40 grams. Or you can use yarn, 40 grams of yarn, etc. It's all the same. You can do 1/4 yard, same way. Slide that on. 1/4 yard. And you can do a 1/2 yard. So if I want a 1/2 yard of number 5 value, where on the first card it was 1½ teaspoons, it is now 5 tablespoons and 1 teaspoon, or 1/2 cup. So it's all done for you. And whatever method you do, if you want to model it or dip dye it or whatever, that's up to you. But now you know the amounts to get that. So that's a little bit about that. And this is your book. Just open this up, and this is how you make your jars, and how you mix them, and how you tear your wool. Everything that you need. I didn't want people to lose the book, have to find a book, and then find the cards and have all of that, because I'm very forgetful. I'm that, forgetful person. So I didn't want I'm sure I'm not alone. We have so many things. So, and then with each card, there is a black and a gray. I wasn't putting a black one in at first. I was just using gray. So there's your black, and your gradations, and there's your charcoal gray in your gradations. So depending on how many values you want, most people would use the charcoal gray or the black. The black is a little dark, so you would have to make some lighter versions at the top end, I would say. Or some people just divide it in half and use half strength of the black to get their gray. So whatever you have at home, if you just have 1 jar of black, you can do this. Anybody can, I guarantee you, once you see what I'm doing. Okay, so let me put this out of the way. And we won't be color wheel dyeing, because I just want to show you what what this was. On the back of these color wheel clocks too, it gives you, these are guides towards color planning, and there's a gradation guide here. All right, those are all sold on my Shopify. So here we are. So today we are going to dye. We're going to dye yarn, we're going to do mini skeins, and we're going to do fabric strips. And so I want to show you mini skeins. All right, so, okay, black, okay. I have notes for myself here. So before we get going, I'll go over the dyes. The dye that I will be using is the dye that comes in your box, in your kit. Now, I have to tell you that the red, the yellow, and blue are consistent. They are pure. So when you mix them and mix them together, you are going to get the same color. Black and gray and brown are made of a combination of all these colors. So you might not get the same black every time that you order a jar. It should be close, but it may not be. And when you dye it, sometimes you'll see a bit of a purple tinge to it, or sometimes a green, a little bit green. But most of the time, the charcoal gray and the black have that bit of purple. Doesn't show so much on the fabric because it takes longer to process. But on the yarn, if I'll show you here, I have some yarn. So here are 8 values. This is not ProChem. This is a new dye that I am trying out. And the black is actually a pure pigment, which I have never seen before. It makes a beautiful black. But look, when you apply it to yarn, do you see a bit of a purple? Well, look, it's a value. You see the difference? That, there's nothing you can do about that. It's just the way it is, but it's because wool is fluffy and it's adding light to it. But if you take your wool and you twist it tight, 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 you're going to see that it gets darker and darker as you go. But in this case, for the 8 value, I would need to put more dye to get it more to a black. But it's going to make a nice, grayscale. Even though there's a bit, you can do a grayscale that isn't gray. It could be any color. When you're working with grayscale on a portrait or whatever, your teacher is teaching you values. And values are more important than anything else because it is what our eye sees. And our brain sees black and white values first before it sees any color. So if your values are spot on, your work will be great. You could have a blue face, a purple face, a green, brown. You could, sepia is kind of brown. So don't worry about that. Just get your values right. Isn't that a nice black? I love it. All right. So now, to tear your strips, I have a document here. Now you can go on the Woolly Mason Jar Dyers on Facebook and look in the files and you will find this document, which you could print off and use, and it'll give you the amount. So each one of these strips in here equals 10 grams too. I didn't put that all in there, but you will see that on your cards, and you'll see that on your sleeves, on your conversion sleeves. Here it'll say, so 8 swatches. Now I'm French, so I tend to call things a little bit different. So I call a swatch a strip. A strip, you call it a strip, I call it a swatch because, anyway, it's what I do and I can't help it. Or a 1/4 yard of fabric, or 80 grams of fiber. Whoops, wrong camera. This is what I do all the time. Okay, on your conversion sleeves here, this is for your 1/4 yard. It will tell you how many grams of fiber if you're doing yarn, and 8 swatches or strips or a 1/4 yard. So that's all written out for you in the Willie Mason jar die system. And remember that dyeing yarn, it will usually always look about a value lighter when it dries, I find. So keep that in mind, and you might want to dye some darker to go with it or lighter. So when I dye them, I'll show you here when I do something like this. So you see on the number 8, which is black, I think that was black off the Briggs & Little black, and the 0 is the natural color of the yarn. And so, because you need something lighter than the number 1 value, I find. And so that's what I did here. I added those 2. Although that might be, it might be just a really dark. I forget what I did here anyway, but you'll see as you go. If you need to get some black from Briggs & Little and some white, well, then do it. Don't worry about that. Now, what can make your colors look a little different? Make sure I have everything plugged in here so I don't run out of... Okay. This is Briggs & Little Bleached White. This is the one I use. It's my go-to one. But when I started, I used washed white. Can you see the difference here? It's a little different. And this is natural white. So when I dye 8 values in this one, it's going to be slightly brighter and lighter than this one, if you know what I mean. So if you're doing 8, stick to 1 skein of yarn. And if you're doing 2, get yourself 2, but keep in the same family. I buy this, by the dozen, or get it from Kevin Lemoyne, but the dozen or 2 dozen, and don't worry about lot number if it's bleached. I don't, because normally you're going to use this one for 1 skein, this for another, and it will blend. And don't let yourself get too anal about lot numbers when it comes to something like this. But this one for sure, if I dyed gray over this one, it's going to look a little more muted, right? Because it has that natural color. Now, mini skeins. These are mini skeins. These are 10-gram mini skeins. And so what you do to make a mini skein, I like the long ones like this. And it's what you wind it around that determines the length. So I'll show you what I use. You're not supposed to hear the old lady moaning and groaning. All right. Let's see if I can change cameras. Okay. This is what I use. I back up without... when you get a bolt of wool or a bolt of fabric, there's one of these cardboard things in it. You can get them for free at your fabric store. They'll give them to you. This is what I use. And so I take my yarn and small space here. I clip it on. And I count the rotations. So in order to know what 10 grams is, this is how you do it. Once you get your one done with the spins, then you don't have to weigh each one. But what you do is you turn your scale on, and you put your skein. You have to do a skein that's done up. So this one is 72 grams. So I would start pulling it out from the middle, and I would just pull off, or wherever, pull off 10 grams till it says 62. Let's say, I think it was at 72, was it not? You just keep pulling off and pulling off. What did I say it was? 672. I don't seem to be taking much off. Whoops. Okay, so now it's at 77. How do I do this? Anyway, there's something, I need to change my batteries. So it shows 17 grams there. So anyway, make sure you start at 0 and you pull off. Then you take that and you wrap that 10 grams around like this. And for me, for this one is Regal. I know I do 15 wraps. And then I tie it at the top. Tie both ends together. And then I make sure that I put a piece of cotton thread at the top. And I make sure it's cotton, get cotton string, tie it, because cotton will not take the dye, so you'll be able to find that in the dye pot. Okay? Hopefully that's clear. I don't have a lot dyed up, but here is some dyed up extra ones that I have. And so I can always mix and match and make myself some values. Here, there's one missing. There we are. And so you try to get them smooth. My values are smooth. It's because I just don't double every spoonful like most people do. I just do a gradation that is really smooth, and it makes really nice swatches. So the dyes. Now, if you don't have the Woolly Mason jar dye system, you can print off those measurements, and you can get. I use these all the time. It's the any dye solution cards, which mean that you can use any dye as long as you mix 1 gram of solution. Every 1 gram of solution with 1 cup of water will make yourself a swatch. It's a lot of work. That's why most people prefer to buy the cards already made up, because, you know, you start to think you're insane. So the different blacks, chestnut, charcoal gray. Oh, while I'm on it, those of you that have magic carpet dyes, this is all the magic carpet dyes done using the Woolly Mason jar dye system. And so this work is already done for you. The only difference is I haven't done the new, oh yes I did do, the turquoise. So this is the old turquoise, and this is the new turquoise. There may be a new red, I haven't done it, but anyway, these are straight from the jar, 1 gram per cup for each of the colors. And as you can see, here they are all here, but this is great for color planning because you can lay them down and think, oh, I want a number 2 value of that one. It's kind of hard to see on a little strip what it's going to end up with, but they're gorgeous. So I use these. So I'll take my card and I will simply just slide it over here. And if I want to do 10 strips or a 1/4 yard plus a 1/16 of a yard, there is the amount that I'm going to use for number 4 value, for example, would be 3 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon will give me a 1/4 yard plus a 1/16 yard of that. And so it's so cool. It's so easy to do once you have the samples, right? And so with these, you get 160 grams, 120 grams, 160 is a half yard. 120 is a 1/4, an 1/8, and a 1/16. And then according to, these are what yarn weights too. So 80 grams is a 1/4 yard. 100 grams is a 1/4 yard plus a 1/16. 60 grams is an 1/8 plus a 1/16. And 50 is an eighth and a 16th. What was that, the same as the other one? 100, eighth and a sixth. No, that's quarter yard, 16. And 40 grams. And so I use these little stick things here. And so when I'm dyeing, for example, I was dyeing turquoise value 4, eighth of a teaspoon. So I'm not sure why that was there, but, oh, eighth of a yard. So this is eighth of a yard, value 4. And so I don't always have to put the strip there. So I know when I'm looking away and I got my jars heated up, you have to heat your solution. And then I just take 4 teaspoons and I'll get an eighth of a yard of that. So it's pretty cool. These aren't money. These are like gold. And so in Wanda's kits, there is a black. This is her black, which is pretty good. But you see how smooth they are with my gradations. And so that's this Magic Carpet Black. Now in the yarn, as I said, it'll look a little purple, but don't worry about that. Don't get hung up on that. You can always play around with your black. Once it's dyed, you can add a tiny touch of maybe yellow or something to try to bring it to another something, but just be careful. So this is her black. Jacquard has a jet black. When you look inside, it looks brown. Don't let that deceive you. Black can look any color. It's what color it turns when you add the boiling water to it. And this is a silver gray jacquard. I don't use the jacquard very much. And Cushing's black and silver gray. I'm not sure what colors these are because I don't have any swatches, sample strips. So, and then the Pro Chem is charcoal gray. Something's, I got some black there. Gotta make sure that I wipe that up. Doesn't get up my wool. And there. This is the Pro Chem black. And that's the one I'll be using. Or, no, the charcoal gray, sorry. Stick with the charcoal gray. If you don't have charcoal gray, you can use black. Or maybe I should just do the black and show you. Let's do black. Move these out of the way. So you can use anything. There may be other blacks out there. And as I said, blacks are made from all colors. And so to do this, I'm going to plug in my kettle. You need boiling water. And there's the methods. I'm going to use microwave dyeing because I do that 95%. But if you don't want to do that, you want to do the old-fashioned kettle dyeing, or you can use a roaster like this with your jars inside. Put an old towel or something underneath, a rag, so that the heat, it kind of distributes the heat so that you don't break your bottles when they boil in here. So in here, I have all of these numbered 1 to 8. You would put them in the order that you would want. 8, 7. That's 1, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 can go in the center. And so you would fill these up, for 10 grams, just, a little more than half, like up to here. You can't stir yarn. So you just have to let the good Lord look after it once. Once you get it in here, you need to put about 3 inches of water in the bottom, and that will heat up the water inside the jars. And once it gets going, after about 20 minutes, if you see steam across the top, you can put some acid. Well, you could probably put the acid in right away, because if it's yarn, not if it's fabric you have to wait. And then after about 40 minutes, they're done. You will put your cover back on it like this as you're steaming it, because you want that heat to stay inside. It doesn't completely cover, so you make sure that there's always water in this container, because if it goes dry, the jars will break. So that's what you do for that. I won't be doing that today. I'm going to use microwave. So when I started, I want people to be able to, this is me, use what they have. All right, sorry about that. And so when I first started, I used the jars. And so what you can do, if you're using microwave, you can still use your jars. So this is what I would do. I would take 4 jars at a time, no more than 4. And put them in a larger plastic container. You can put them, at first I was putting them in and out of the microwave one by one, but then I realized that I could do 4 at once, or 2. Or depending on what type container you have, you could put 3. So the reason for the container is so I can pick them all up at once. But jars are heavy. And I had a lady from Missouri, I think it is, Jean, if you're watching. She's in her 90s and she wanted to start dyeing using my system. I was worried about her because she was very limited mobility. I was worried she was going to burn herself. And so I worked with her and came up with a way to make it much lighter and safer for Jean. So, and this is great for you that are downsizing. Because it's microwave, you can't do this in the pan, is yogurt containers. They work perfect for just 1 strip or 10 grams or 20 grams, depending on what it is. And look, I have 8 in this size, so look how small they stack up to, and it saves a lot of work. So I can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, you can even, if you're just doing 5, you can do 5 in a container of this size. Because these are not heavy, you don't have the weight of the glass. And they don't hold as much water, so you're pretty safe. So I just do 4 of each. I'll do value 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, 8 in the other one. So even with the water, I can pick it up almost with one hand. So this is what you're going to see me do with this. So first we're going to make our solution. And the Woolly Mason jar is always 1 gram per cup of boiling water. I don't know, I should say that on here somewhere, but would I? Yes. 1 cup solution. You need 1 gram of powdered dye, 1 cup of boiling water. If you want to just make a half a cup, it's 0.5 and a half a cup of boiling water. If you want to make a quarter cup only, 0.25 or a quarter, and for a quarter cup. So you don't have to make big jars. If you're just doing a bit of dyeing, you can just make them as they go. And so for black, it's easy. If you are going to if you're going to make your whole system or just want to dye out of primary jars, I have a colored clock guide here which tells you how many portions of each dye to put in. So since you're only using 2, this is fabulous. So I can make a cup of this, or I can just mix 2 of my just make my 3 primaries and just use, if I want a yellow orange, I can just take and do maybe an ounce of each, 3 ounces of yellow and 1 of red, or it could be 3 teaspoons of yellow and 1 of the red, so it's just so easy to do. There's no fractions and there's no 10% and all of that stuff. That was really too hard for me, and I didn't want. We're rug hookers. We're used to teaspoons. We're used to things like that because we bake. We're not chemists, and so I don't jive with the 10%, 20%. It's good. If you're a professional and that's how you want to do it, it's mostly for yarn. So I don't do it that way. Simple is what I am. Simple is what I do. So 1 cup of boiling water. So now that I make this cup with this dye, every cup of boiling water, if I weigh it right, is going to be exactly the same, and it will match and reproduce down the road. So make sure you get a decent size container. And so I'm going to turn that on. These are weigh boats that come with this system. You put that on. Now you have to tare, or I often just turn it off and back on, and that will say 0. And now I open my jar. You should have something down here. I'm not going to go get something, but you should have wet paper towel or wet newspaper. And you slowly, you weigh some. That's 25. So this would be a 1/4 cup. So I'm going to take some more till I get to 1. Can you see the numbers here? Oh, I'm at 99. So I just want ever so little. Sometimes I push on it so it'll readjust because I think it's not working when it's minute amounts there. Well, now it's at 0. Oh, it's at 1, sorry. All right, there, 1 gram. Close this up and get it out of the way. You should have your gloves on. You should have a mask. I just can't do it while I'm dyeing. And do I do it? No, I don't. But I'm just a bad girl. So you always take a little bit of your hot water, boiling water, put it at the bottom. So breathing this is where it's dangerous. You don't want to put this in your lungs in the dust form, the powdered form. So never ever do this outside. Once it's mixed, now I'm safe. I can breathe all I want and I don't have to worry about anything. Sometimes there's a little bit left in there, so I'll just kind of pour it a little bit in there. And now you want to take, I use chopsticks all the time, and I suggest that you do too. They don't heat up like sometimes you're going to use a big metal spoon, and I have seen them heat up somehow. And so you just stir. Some of it wants to stay in a cake form, something like when you're mixing cocoa. This seems to be going pretty good. Make sure it's all stirred in. And just slowly add. It takes a little longer, but if you take your time doing this, it will be a much better experience for you, because then it's, so I don't know if you can see, it looks a little purple on the side. I'll take and put a little piece of paper towel, or I usually use coffee filter, but I have paper towels here. And now we're good. So this is what you're going to use for your swatch. This will do at least 3, maybe 4 swatches. Not sure I'd have to add that. At least 3. Okay, so I'll just take a piece of paper towel. I'm going to tear some off because I don't want to. I'll use that for the next time. And so this is the black. So I dip it in. And Not really showing purple, but we'll look at this again later. And we'll see what comes up here. And so right now it's looking nice and black. I'm seeing a little bit of purple coming up, and I'll show you this again later. In the meantime, we're going to do the yarn. I'll take this. I can use boiling water. So when you soak your yarn, you don't need any soap at all. You can put a bit of vinegar in the water if you want. Oh, I've already got color on this. When you're working with your wet wool, make sure everything is clear. Okay, so I'm going to add some water to there. If you're just doing one strip, you can microwave in a plastic cup like this, in a little container like this. Anything you can put in your microwave. You can save your takeout containers. Try to reuse. And so if you're worried you don't have a dye kitchen, well, neither do I. I'm in the basement. I have no kitchen sink. I work out of my bathroom sink. I do have kind of like a bigger basin in there now, but I never did. As long as you can get water and have some place to dump it, you can dye. You can also have a cooler here. I don't know if you can see if I move this. You see this cooler here? This is my hot water. So I have another jug of hot water in there. It's on wheels, and so I don't have to worry about it. All right. And so now I'll get my card. I'm going to get my black card out. So for the number 1, I need 1/8 of a teaspoon. I have my dipping ladles. These come with these are for solutions, and they come with your kit. Please don't ask if you can buy them separately. I have to only buy them for my people that have the kits because it's so expensive to get them in Canada that I just can't. All right, so 1/8 of a teaspoon. I'm going to leave the spoon in there. On my ladles, if you guys are wondering, oh, look at her ladles. I took white nail polish and made a blob, let it dry, and now I wrote the 1/4 teaspoon rather than try to wiggle this in the light to see what it was. So now I can see it from afar. So just in. I'm turning this. Now I need, that was number 2. Number 3 is 1/2 teaspoon. 1/2 teaspoon. Number 4 is 1 teaspoon. Every single card is the same. Every single card. From red all the way to black, every single card is always the same. So you just have to remember one thing. You don't need to do any formulas or any fractions or anything. You don't have to add all these 1/64ths and whatnot. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And so now I'm going to put a mini skein of yarn in each. I'll put a little bit of acid, since I didn't, but if you soak them with vinegar. You don't need much acid. The amount of acid depends on how much dye is in there. This was the number 1. Now, see, I'm stirring from the outside. You're not supposed to stir yarn. Now, I find that I'm going to need one lighter, so what I would do is do a 1/16 of a teaspoon. And so what I would do is mix a cup with 1/8 of a teaspoon and just pour half. Or if you have these little mini spoons, you look for the one that says a 1/16 and use it. There's different types that you can get. These are, as long as they say, I don't know if you can read that. No, you can't see it. But anyway, I can see it says 1/64 or 0.08 mils. To me, this is too dark for a number 1 because it's black. Now, I could have just went half. Oh, no, that's not. I turned it around. Oh, Lord, what a dummy. Here we go. This is the number 1. All right. You're going to do this too. It's best for me to, you know, show how this is real. I'm a real person. This is kind of real stuff. So that makes more sense to be number 1. Oh, Lucy. Here we go. There we are. And I'm going to take the cover that came with this. So this is a Rubbermaid something, and I really like it. Put the cover on, and I will put it in for 1 minute per each cup in there. So I'm going to put it in for 4 minutes. Then I'm going to test the temperature. And now the darker ones take longer. I'm gonna have to go get more water. Where's my assistant anyway? I don't have one. The more water you put, the more smooth it's going to be. If I want it truly mottled, I might just put half of that amount of water in there. All right, so we did 1 to 4. Now, this is number 5. I'm putting 1.5 teaspoons. I'm going to put the 1/2 teaspoon in first. I'm leaving the spoon in there. If you don't, and the doorbell rings or the dog barks or somebody distracts me, I don't know if I put the teaspoon in or have I just put the 1/2 teaspoon. So this is why you leave that in there till you go to your next one. So the next one is 2.5 teaspoons. 1. And so that's your 1/2 teaspoon, and 1 and 2. Spin it around. Next one will be value number 7, which is 4 teaspoons. Take the teaspoon out of there. That's not a full teaspoon. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 2 tablespoons for value number 8. That's how easy it is, guys. And if you run out because you've dyed it yourself, you're always going to run out of one, and good luck ever trying to match that unless you use my system. So if you run out of number 4, well, you just go back here and you do the same. You do it the same way. You have to heat this up until it's real hot, just like it was just made, and then put 1 teaspoon in per strip, or according to your weight, and you're good. probably could even put two 10 gram pieces in there. But usually when I do two, I have a lot of these plastic measuring cups from the dollar store. I do not use them to measure water. I use the good one, but then I can dye two in there easily and they come out. When you crowd them, you have more chance. I'm going to start with number 5. Now the darker the wool, the longer it takes. I don't know this on YouTube if I have any restrictions on time, but we're going to find out. I'm hoping that it's actually, I'm hoping you can see me. All right, there we go. And this was a plastic container from the dollar store. And it came with this cover. It's a Christmas thing, like for Christmas. And it doesn't, they don't fit on there tight, but it's just enough to keep the steam in. When you cover something, you never want it to seal. So you always make sure that if this would be lower, I would just simply turn it over so that it wouldn't seal, because you don't want anything sealing in the microwave. And this one will be, I'm going to do 5 minutes on it. All right. So now these have been in there. Let's check the temperature. So you don't have to have one of these at home if you're just doing the Greyscales once. But anybody, if you have the Woolly Mason jar dye system, get this. They're not expensive. So what I do is I just check my water. And if anything above 140 is good. I don't really need it to go like to 180 or never, you know, 140, 150 is all you need. And now I'm just going to stir a bit. And you can see this one, it's almost clear. You see the water there. And so with yarn, you're just going to let it sit, because you can't stir. But I run this around the outside. If you stick that in the middle of that and stir, you're never gonna, you'll be here for a month trying to get out the tangles. All right, there we go. So this one almost clear. See, that one is almost clear. The more dye, of course, the longer it takes. And so we're just going to put this aside. And I'm just going to run and get some more water. Excuse me. I'm going to give you something pretty to look at, though, while I'm gone. I'm back. Wipe this up a little bit. I want to show you, this is what I use to soak my fabric. It's Woolite for delicates. You look for the one that's for delicates. That's good for wool, like sweaters and things. That way, it's for hand washing only, and it's really mild on the wool. I figure, you know. The other thing you can use is dish soap too, and you can use. I don't use Synthropol. It's it gets my asthma going every time, so I feel that's probably not good for me to use. So you could use this. I really like that. I've been using it for years. I can't get it in Canada. I have to order this from the US. We're in a small town. You might be able to get it in Ontario. All right, so this is due to come out in a minute. And so we're going to get together some more containers for the fabric, and I'm just going to show you the fabric. I don't think you'll need to wait for me to see everything when it's done. We'll do 4. I'm going to reuse this container. Since these are going to clear on their own. Look, they're almost clear already. I'll just cover these with something. So when you're letting them sit, make sure you cover them with something. I will use stuff like this, silicone sheets, plastic placemats, whatever I have. Let's have a look. Do you remember if we put the acid in here? I don't think we did. So I'll do that now as we go. I'm going to check the temperature. $150 is good. And I'm just going to put a little more in the darker ones. So if you're doing a whole skein, you need probably, I would say, a tablespoon at least of citric acid, or like I'm looking here, there's a conversion. 1 teaspoon citric acid equals 8 tablespoons of vinegar. Not too sure about that. Seems like a lot, but with fabric, you can stir and stir and make it work faster. But with yarn, you're kind of limited to just being able to rub your your chopstick around the side just to move the water. So if I'm just doing one, I might be tempted to use one of these. That way I can take my masher and mash it. You can mash, you just can't stir. Okay, and these will be set aside. And we just wait for them to clear. So the darker ones are going to need to go back in the microwave. So I'm going to let them sit at least 5 or 6, maybe 10 minutes. Check the temperature. Once it goes down to around 120, I'll put it in again for another 5 minutes. And we're going to, we will do the fabric so you can see. In the meantime, these two are clear. So with the Woolly Mason jar dye system, you're done when the water's clear. So that is clear. So that can come out. Put it in a side container. I could reuse this water, but it has acid in it, so I would probably just if I was doing more yarn, I would reuse that water. That's pretty good too. There's just a tinge in it, but it's not enough. See how nice that looks? 1, 2, blends in nicely. And so for fabric, I think I showed you. There's tearing instructions on my website, but here is what you want to look at where you're going to tear. I don't include the salvages. So what I do is I tear the selvage down a little bit, about 4 or 5 inches. This selvage tells me, if I don't put my snips in it, that that's the outside, and then I always know that I'm going to tear in the right direction. I like tearing from the top down, down the width, parallel to the selvage, because it goes through the cutter easily, better that way for the fine cuts. So it's good to get into a way of doing things that you can be consistent. If you do it the same way all the time, then you are going to have a really nice, you're going to be able to replicate things again. So, all right. So now for the fabric, I'm going to put water in here, and we're going to do the exact same thing. It takes about 40 minutes on the stove, and you're thinking, well, why? It takes about 40 minutes maybe in the microwave altogether, but I don't think so, probably half. It's just that when I use the stove, my windows steam up, I burn myself. I don't burn myself in the microwave. I'm picking this whole thing up. If there's a boil over or something, it'll happen. It'll go in there. And the most important thing is the microwave turns off. I have burnt wool on the stove because I tend to be doing way too many things at once. So I put that on. I can run down to the store, or then I get to the store and, I can go down the road and get this. I could go have a cup of tea with this person or that. And then you come home and your house is full of smoke. So I use all my instruments usually that I use, you turn off on their own. So again, the same thing. I'm not putting any acid in for the fabric. We'll do that later because they need time to kind of sit in the water more. So we're going to do 1/8 of a teaspoon for value 1. I'm going to use the other one. I'll just show you here. These are all laminated, and I just love using these. Just a second. I use these 90% of the time. All right. So I don't want to get my card all dirty in case I drop it, right? So 1/8 of a teaspoon, value number 2, 1/4 of a teaspoon. I know I just had it. I heard something fall. So it's got to be. Stacy always says, Mom, how do you disappear stuff? All right. All right, can you guys see it? Am I blind here? Maybe it's on the floor. All right, well, instead of wasting your time, what I'll do is 1/8 of a teaspoon twice. I'll find it as soon as how does that, how do I do that? All right, I'll just do 2 of these. 2/8 of a teaspoons equals 1/4 teaspoon. Okay, and so the next one, value number 3, is 1/2 a teaspoon. And then number 4 is a full teaspoon. Okay, so those are done. And I just put my fabric in. never put the acid in right away if I'm doing strips or for swatches, because generally you want it smooth, right? Because that's what you need for a swatch. Otherwise it's just, you know, you can do mottled swatches, but you don't do them as close. You would maybe jump a value between. Don't worry about, now you can mark these if you're new. You can take a Sharpie and mark on these. Let's see if I can find a mark right on your container. One. Let's see if I can find a Sharpie. Like on the inside of the container at the top, you could put number 1, number 2, that sort of thing. Can you see that? I have them numbered. Outside would be better. But you will see the difference in all of them because of the different amounts of dye. And that's all you do. Now these have to go in, and then I'll add. These will go in at least twice each. Because fabric is denser and it needs more heat and more time. So we'll stick these in. Now, when you're done with, like, the yarn I took out, it all has to be rinsed well to get any of that extra dye, which there won't be any because you'll see the clear water. Here are the others. See, there's still a bit of dye in there, so it just needs to sit a little longer. It probably should go back in. And check the temperature. Ideally, 141 is where I like for my dyes. So it's at 123. So we will put it in again, along with the other ones we put aside. All right, so now get 4 more containers. 2, 3. Get bigger ones. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't have a container. Oh, I guess I do. So if you've seen me dye my skeins, I use this as a Tupperware cake pan. It's great for dyeing. I've been dyeing about 10 years on this. So I just put my larger containers here. Some water in each. Then I use the cover from the cake pan and just set it on the top. So it works really good. I could do a full yard of wool in this, and definitely one skein. And the techniques, this Willie Mason jar dye system, it's great for doing fun techniques that you can only do in the microwave. So that's why I've always focused on the microwave. I like it, it's fast, and as I said, it turns off. These are a little bit larger containers. That's why I didn't have enough water in one of those. So now we're going to look at our black again. And you can see up here, there's a little bit of blue, and you see it kind of going a bit of purple along the edge there. That kind of tells you what's in it. It's mostly blue and purple. But you can, if you use enough dye on any color, you're going to have black. All right. So here's the last. So we did the first 4. And now value number 5, a teaspoon and a half. A teaspoon in first. And number 6 is 6 and a half. I know these by heart, but I'm trying to remember that you don't. And 2 and a half teaspoons of 2 of these. Usually don't go over your other ones with your, I'm just in like about a 2-foot square spot here, so with 3 cameras. So I'm just kind of turn these at least. And value number 7 is 4 teaspoons. And we know that 3 teaspoons are a tablespoon, so we could do a tablespoon and a teaspoon. 2. 3, 4. And then number 8 is 2 tablespoons. Well, I guess, so you can get 2 out of a cup. There's not enough there for a whole 8 values. I was wrong, I thought you could get 3. And then we just put our, watch how I can stir these, because they really stir well. All right. So this is the darkest one. I can stir and stir hard. It isn't going to hurt anything. What do you think? I hope you guys are getting inspired to do this yourself. It's almost impossible to get swatches. And here in Canada, the stores, they're not fussy to do these. They'd rather do half-yard pieces, quarter-yard pieces. Why not? You know, it only takes, 20 minutes to do that, and you make more profit, but you could do this at home. And then if you run out, you can always make it again with the same measurement. This is how I came up with this. I had to dye a raven for my Raven of the Tower of London. I don't think I have a photo here. And I sent away for, I didn't even know you could buy a black dye for a dye set that had something called Raven in it. And so I didn't know. I ordered it. I made 1 set, pouring off method. I ran out. I tried again. Did 8 more. They didn't match. I ran out again. Or I tried again. So 3 times I could never get it to match. So I wasted a lot of wool. And so the piece was a lot smaller. All right, so now let's have a look here. See the temperature is. Well, we're 152, so that's good. So I'm going to put the acid in these. Yes, it does look good. I'm pretending I can hear what you're saying. Stir, Lissy. It's your favorite thing. So remember, you can do any one of these values for whatever size you want with my system. If you want a half a yard, value 8, it's, I don't know, I think it's like 2 cups or something. I'd have to look that up. I should have picked something out of my head that I knew the answer for. The more you stir, the more smooth the swatch is. The wool. The less you The more water and the more stirring, the smoother the wool. Less water, less stirring, and you'll get a mottle effect. Which you often want a mottle effect too, you know. I could be doing 8 different colors here, and I might want them all mottled. And so I would just not stir like I'm doing here. But I like to count, so I'm stirring and counting, you know, takes the mundane away sort of thing, but you don't need to do that. Oh, I got hair in there. So it also dyes your hair if you get it in there. So let's just have a look here. For the heck of it, that value. You see that value number 1 in the fabric and value number 1 in the yarn. About the number 2. Number 2 is not finished yet, but it'll still give us an idea. See that? So there's a different look, of course, to the yarn. It's fluffier and it's lighter looking, and this stuff will dry a value lighter. All right. And so now this will sit till the other one comes out. Then I'll put this back in and then let it sit till it's finished. You know when it's finished when the water's clear. Look, that's almost finished. So that's one. The really light ones like that will clear really quick without having to go back in. And the darker you go, and you may need more acid. Did I put acid in? I must have. Must have. Yes. I didn't in the other ones. Otherwise it wouldn't be clearing. You have to remember that, but you're also not going to be trying to do several cameras by yourself, so you will remember that. And if you want to do something to remind yourself, just stick something plastic inside that might say citric acid, and then you, like this, anything plastic like this was for plant stakes. Any hard plastic can go in the microwave. I can take my milk cartons or my milk jugs and cut them and make strips, and that can be in there. And just if I say citric acid, then I know I've done it. But I pretty well know they don't clear like this fast without it. I know I haven't in the other one. When it comes out, I will put the acid in. I always like to put the fabric in once first, without acid. The reason for that is the acid might want to make it grab, the dye to grab a little quicker, and maybe mostly on the outside. And that's why I like to do it second round, because it's gone right through your wool, providing your wool is soaked well and it's all soaked right through. That's why you need the soap, because the soap opens the pores, or the hot water and soap. Sound like a Noxzema commercial. Opens the pores. All right. Whoop. Oh, that's not good, Lucy. So this one's pretty well. See, it's clear. Almost. Would I take it out now? Yes, I would, because that little bit there, but I'm going to leave it. This one is still going, and it's going to go back in. Just needs more heat now to finish off. Okay, let's have a look and we'll add the acid. Maybe nobody even came, but that's all right. I'll have the video. Didn't like to use YouTube because I'm so sensitive, and when people go around putting thumbs down, I take it to heart. grown woman, but, you know, I just, you know, I lack sometimes in confidence, so that's why I never put them on my video, I have a few on YouTube. I might get some more subscribers. Facebook told me that they're deleting my videos at the end of June, so on my private dye group and the other one, so I'm trying to move them. But I do have Vimeo that I pay a lot of money per month, but I'm not really sure how to do a live with the Vimeo yet, so I'm going to work on that so I can continue to try to help you all. While I'm stirring, look at this. Isn't this pretty? Look at that. Show you some pictures. Oh, that one's missing. There's all my cards. There they are with the half. Anyway. Can't help myself. And did I put any in here? Now the dark colors are going to take a long time, and so I'm not going to keep you for that. So what I will do is put a link to the photos of the end result, and you'll be able to go see when they're done. These, let's have a look at the yarn. See, even the yarn ones have to go back in. So they're going to go in another 5 minutes. There's nothing you can do but wait. And they may need a little bit more acid. I'll see, but I won't do it till after I take them out. All right, so I think I've showed you enough for you to get on your way. And if you need me for anything, you know where to find me. It's a woollymasonjar.com. I have the Woolly Mason Jar rug hooking group on Facebook. Also, the private group Woolly Mason Jar Dyers has lots of things for dyers only, recipes in the file section, so please join there. And my Shopify I will include here if you're interested in my system. There's a lot of people using it. It's easy, and I'm always around for questions on my group, so thank you very much.